I probably should unmute myself. That is the issue of 2020, right? Not unmuting yourself when you're on the Zoom. I am Christian Smith. Thank you so much for joining us here today for the virtually unstoppable preview. This is what I need you to do before we even get started. I need you to share this. I need you to tag some people. Let me make sure you understand who you need to tag. Virtually Unstoppable is for any faith leader or leader of a community that needs to learn how to function in the virtual space. COVID-19 pandemic has put us in a position that we have no choice but to take the virtual space seriously. And many of us are hoping that in 2021 everything will go back to normal. But the reality is we shouldn't even want it to go back to normal because this has opened up a world of opportunities that we never considered before. So I want you to tag your pastor. I want you to tag your coach. I want you to tag the leader of your movement, whoever it is. I want you to tag them and invite them to be a part of this. I have some friends with me here today, and I want to bring them on the screen. Uh, I brought together some people that I knew would add great insight to this clinic. Virtually Unstoppable starts January 12th. It's going to be 4 sessions. Each session will have a guest clinician. Three of those clinicians are here with me today. And the first one that is going to have his session on January 12th is Stephen J. Thurston. So I want to ask him to introduce himself real quick.
Thank you, Christian. I'm Stephen Thurston, a people, process, and project manager. I help individuals and organizations to change what's within so that they can change what's around.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much. Next up, I want to invite Reverend Tisha Williams to introduce herself.
Hi, I am Reverend Tisha Williams. I'm the senior pastor of the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton in Bridgehampton, New York. I'm also the chief operator and chief curator of a women's ministry movement called Who's That Lady and author of I See You Sis.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Now let's kick it over to Kervance Ross.
Greetings, everybody. I am Kervance Ross, the Kingmaker. I am the president and CEO of KDR Consulting, a marketing and strategic development firm. I am the curator of the book, The Business in the Bible, and I am also the pastor of Internet and Innovation for New Birth Missionary Baptist Church here in Stonecrest, Georgia, pastored by Jamal Harrison Bryant.
Thank you, sir. I brought these people together because I wanted to bring as much corporate background as I did ministry background. So as you heard, we have a project manager here. We have a leader of an online movement. We have a marketing expert here. Not only do they function in ministry, but they function in the marketplace. And that's very important because Virtually Unstoppable is not just about church, it's about organizational leadership. Now, for those of you that know me, you know that I have a brand of theology that is quite novel, sometimes disruptive. I want to address the elephant in the room right now. Virtually Unstoppable is not about teaching my theology. We're not having a theological conversation at Virtually Unstoppable. This is about organizational leadership in the virtual space. How can you maximize the opportunities presented to you and your movement or your ministry in the virtual space? So don't worry, we're not going to talk about my book. We're not going to talk about greatest commandment theology. I have a heart for leaders and I want to see people lead well. And this pandemic has presented an opportunity for us to do that. Now, my background, I spent time in banking in corporate America. I have a clothing business where we do custom clothing and wardrobe consulting. It just so happens all of my clinicians are also my clients. I love that. So I have a successful business that I started before I started the faith community, my church. Also have a movement called Holy Smoke Cigars and Spirituality. that functions on its own, separate from my church. Now it's an extension of my church, but Holy Smokes is its own movement. And when I started the faith community just 2.5 years ago, we started before the pandemic with virtual ministry. And when the pandemic hit, many people were struggling trying to figure out how they were going to function. We were already doing it. We were already doing it. So during the course of this year, my ministry has grown exponentially. People have joined. People have stuck. People are giving. My best givers have never physically visited the building where we worship. I want to say that again. My best givers have never physically visited the building where we worship because we're doing virtual ministry effectively. We're doing virtual community building effectively. Now, there's a story about a guy who had an idea about 15 years ago to um, take advantage of the virtual space in the movie industry. He went to a titan of industry and talked to them about partnering with them because they were winning. They had locations all over the country. I think it was about 4,000 locations. And he presented a partnership and he said, listen, the internet is going to change our industry. And I have the infrastructure, I have the business model that will help your business to transition into utilizing the internet at its full capacity. So, how about we come together? This titan of industry laughed this man out of the office and basically said, why do we need you? We already winning. Everybody's already coming to our building. We don't need your help with your little online business. Fast forward to 2020, that titan of industry is known as Blockbuster. They have no locations open anymore. That man who presented that idea to them and they laughed him out of the office is the founder of Netflix. The internet affects every single industry. I don't care what it is, the church included, even my business, P Square Custom Clothiers. I had to pivot this year and start offering virtual consultations. One of my newest clients, I've never seen him in person in my life. He lives in New York, but I've been able to take care of his needs by utilizing what is at our disposal. So what we're going to do in Virtually Unstoppable is help you to know how to utilize the resources at your disposal. It doesn't take a ton of money. The more money you have, the easier it'll be. But I want to tell you, because my ministry is so disruptive, there weren't a lot of people who wanted to bankroll and put a bunch of capital into what I was doing. We had to figure out how to be virtually unstoppable on a budget. And that's key because you see Kervance Ross is here and he's the pastor of internet innovation at New Birth Baptist Church. So you're thinking, oh, I don't have a budget like New Birth. Neither do I. So this is not about you having a lot of money. We got big church represented here. We got little church. We got progressive church. We have traditional church. We have everything right here represented. We have marketing. We have project management. We have movement leadership. We have organizational leadership, all represented right here. So Virtually Unstoppable is not going to be about rhetoric and philosophical theories. We're giving you tangible tools so that you can be successful. Last thing before I kick it over to my clinicians so they can give you a preview of their sessions, what we are not suggesting is that you stop focusing on the physical gathering. That's not what I'm suggesting. What we're suggesting is that the digital space allows us to add on to what we've been doing. It's an add on, it's an addition, it's not a replacement. We had to replace it this year, but we can't try to go back and leave the virtual side behind when 2021 comes and everybody has the vaccine. So that's what this is about. At Virtually Unstoppable, it's going to be 4 sessions. They begin in 2 weeks. The same time 2 weeks from now is the first session. So we're going to do a session a week for 4 weeks. The first session, we're going to cover team development and systems implementation. Any project that you take on of this magnitude, you need to have a team. If the only thing you're doing is setting up a camera and making videos, you've already missed the mark. You need a team and you need systems. So the person that I am going to have co-facilitate that session with me is Stephen Thurston, and he is a project management professional, and he does this for a living. Steve, will you just take about 5 minutes and tell us what we can expect from your session on January 12th?
Happy to, Christian. Listen, I've come to discover in my years of leadership that one of the most critical and crucial components that causes us to not meet the place of success is called failure to engage in project management. Now, I know a lot of people, especially in the church space, are like, what's that? What does that term mean? I think I've heard it before. Isn't it just related to construction? No. Reality of the matter is that all of us are actually project managers. If you're married, you're a project manager. That spouse is a project. If you got kids, project manager. You ever taken a family vacation? Project manager. Your routine that you engage in on a day-by-day basis, those are projects that you engage in. You just never gave it that same nomenclature. So let me break it down for you. What is project management? Listen, a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. A temporary endeavor, that means it's got a start date and an end date, that's undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. All of us engage in that on a regular basis, whether you're in ministry or marketplace. Everything is a project. Pastors, those of you listening in, every Sunday worship experience, even if it's from your living room, that's a project. It delivers a unique product, service, or result. And we've got to frame it that way for us to reach the place of success. Now, there are some common project management myths that I want to uplift so that you don't get hung up on this stuff and that you, again, reach that place of success. Number one, that a project leader, project manager has to be detail oriented. That is not necessarily the case. You don't have to be that person that crosses every T and dots every I. What you do need to do is surround yourself with people that can help to be your blind spot indicator. But as a project manager, all you're really doing is facilitating the project to get towards its success. You're making sure the people are in the right place, in the right position on the bus as it's headed to the right destination. And you're making sure that the team has everything that they need to reach the ultimate destination. Myth number two, all battles must be fought and won. Not necessarily, just the things that are crucial and critical towards success. In project management, there's something called the critical path. And those are the things that are needful and necessary, that if they don't happen, the project fails. You don't make it to the finish line. And so we need to focus in on what those things are and keep our focus there. Keep the main thing the main thing. That's simply what I'm seeking to suggest. Number three, third myth, you should never kill a project. That's a lie. Some things you got to lay on the altar and cut its neck. It's got to be killed. Some stuff will die. Other stuff you've got to kill. It may not be working. It may not fit you. It may not suit you. That project may not be tailored for you. And you've got to be willing to walk away, have some walk away power. So you should never kill a project. That's a myth. The fourth myth I want to uplift is that contingencies aren't needed, especially for God's work. No, Murphy's Law is eternal and everlasting. What can go wrong will go wrong. And you need to prepare. You need to plan. You need to know what's coming. You need to equip yourself so that you can still win even when things don't go as planned. And so why do projects fail? A couple of reasons that I want to list for you. Because volunteers have limited time. We're all living in a virtual space. We're multitasking, kids at home while you're trying to do work. Your volunteers may not have the time to get it done. That's a key reason why projects fail. Lack of planning or management skill. We come up with the idea and then we jump right to execution. No, where's the plan? We've got to plan out everything we do to ensure success happens. We also oftentimes have no clear timeline or milestones. I'll get it done when I get it done. Nope. As a project manager, you've got a start date and an end date. That's what makes a project and not operations. So you've got some timelines. You've got some milestones, some goals that you're trying to hit as you're moving down that path. Scope creep. All of us have done this. You ever gone in Target and said, I was going in for one thing, and by the time you get to the counter, you got a buggy full of stuff? That's called scope creep. And that's what happens as to why many of our projects fail. We take on too much, more than what we plan to. Poor communication, another reason. We don't talk to the people on the team and make sure everybody knows what we're doing, how we're doing it, when we're doing it, how long we're doing it. We've got to ensure everybody's singing from the same sheet of music in the same key. 6, not a good organizational fit. Sometimes we've seen the competition or the church down the road doing something, and we say, hey, I'm going to mimic that. That's going to be our mantra. That's going to be our goal, our vision. It may not fit you. I can't wear Curvance's suits. He's larger than I am. It's not going to happen, not going to work. I've got to have what works for me. So listen, as we get out of here, as I'm done, as I'm wrapping up, I want to encourage you to recognize that there are 5 phases in the project. Initiating, that's getting ready. Planning, that's getting set. Execution, that's where you go. Monitoring, controlling, that's where you're guiding things. And then finally closing, that's where you're gleaning and you're learning from your past failures so that you don't make them again and you fail forward. That's what you can expect to get when we gather on the 12th. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. No one can wear Curvance's suits. They're just made for him. They're, I understand exactly what you're saying, though. He, his suits are special. When I make a suit for Curvance, I have to like burn the fabric swatch because I can't make it for anybody else. Listen, you need to be a part of this. If you haven't registered yet, go to christianasmith.com. It's right there on the screen. Go to the events tab and register right now. Early bird pricing is 135, but you got to go ahead and register now because my price is going up next year. And by next year, I mean Friday. So register right now. Early bird pricing is 135 for all 4 sessions. Steve's session is going to be 2 weeks from today, January 12th. Team development, project management, systems implementation. Listen, if you want to be virtually unstoppable, you need to start thinking about how to restructure your team. You need to start thinking about that. You need to put just as much energy into selecting somebody to manage your social media as you do a minister of music. You need to put just as much energy into picking who's going to be your production manager as you do the chairman of deacons. That is where we are in this progression of ministry and movement management. You need to have people who are focused on the communication. When it comes to building your team, you need to have direct conversations with people. There are a lot of people. I'm a Baptist kid. I'm a child of the Baptist church. So most of my elders are part of the National Baptist Convention, and I love them dearly. And many of them are not savvy with social media and technology. And just like Steve said, you don't have to be the person to know that stuff. But the reality is, just about everybody in your church under the age of 20 knows enough to get you going. And those are people who you will give an opportunity to build their skill set while they help you along the way. So even though they may not have everything figured out, they're going to have more figured out than you do right now. So utilize the resources at your disposal. That's what we're going to be talking about in that first session on January 12th when we talk about team development and systems implementation. All right. Now, here's a big one because most people, when we think about virtual ministry or virtual leadership, community building, and when I say community building, I want to make that clear. One of the key components of the church is building community. Many times we think it's to preach. No, our job is to build community. Preaching is a component of that. Speaking is a component of that. Creating content and programming is a component of that. It is not the only component, but it is still very important. So we're going to have a session dedicated to content creation and programming. So I want to ask my brother, who's pastor of internet and innovation at New Birth Baptist Church here in Atlanta, to give us a little tidbit of what we can expect as it pertains to programming and content creation at his session.
Christian, thank you so much. I am more than excited to be on tonight, and I want to shift briefly because each one of you who are tuned in are connected to people who you know have been stopped virtually, whether they're in business, whether they're in your circles, through preachers, through business, through ministry, wherever they are. And they annoy you on a regular basis, asking you for insight from people that they could reach out to on their own. If you'd stop right now and just tag 3 or 4 people who you know have been stopped in 2020 virtually, who need to hear this free content because they may never shift. They've been waiting for the sanctuary to return. They believe that the moment that God is coming back is Easter Sunday of 2021, because all of a sudden the rapture will come and we'll go back to church as usual, like it was December of 2019. If you tag them right now, you'll change your life and take a lot of headache off of your shoulders. Christian, it's amazing to me that when we were talking about content, I realized that as we come 3 days now up on 2021, that COVID-19 in the United States alone has killed 300,000 plus people. High blood pressure, the police, diabetes, suicide, and depression in 2020 have been in the top 10 of deadly killers of people in the United States. But I don't think that there has been a critical study on the reality that orthodoxy has killed more people than the statistics have shown us, because orthodoxy has rendered many of our churches, our businesses, and our ideas obsolete. Orthodoxy being that thing that forces you to be beholden to a tradition or a doctrine has put you in a place where, much like coronavirus, orthodoxy has killed many of our ministries. Started to think about a company that became a cult brand, this company called Xerox. Many people don't realize that Xerox, which was started in the early 1900s, was taken from 2 Greek root words that meant dry content. Say that again. The word Xerox is taken from 2 Greek root words that means dry content. And many people don't realize that now that they have become synonymous with print copies. You don't realize that Xerox was the first individual company to introduce what we now know as the internet. Say that again. Xerox was the first company to introduce the template for what we now know as the internet. Xerox did some amazing things. They introduced innovation as a word processor. They created the laser printers. They created the communication network, and they introduced the internet. They were so innovative that in 1979, Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, made a deal with Xerox to make a capital investment because he believed that they were going to be key in the transition of technology in the 21st century. He goes to meet with them, Christian, goes to meet with them, Tish, and to his dismay, they had great innovation, but they had no strategy for implementing what was in their head in reality. And Steve Jobs is quoted with saying they just had no idea what they had. They were proprietors of the term that they created. They were innovative enough to make copies, but they were dry in their content to make change. And many of us don't realize that the biggest challenge in killing our opportunity to be virtually unstoppable is because we are in a circumstance right now where our content is dry. Let me give you 3 things, and I'm out of your way, that's going to help you right away to keep yourself from being a victim of orthodoxy and being virtually stoppable because of your content. Number 1, content is not about what you write. It's first about a strategy that many of us don't have. Many of us have no strategy. Get this, you need a content marketing strategy with multiple tactics. You need to put a strategy in place that says, this is what I'm going to say. This is how I'm going to say it. This is how I'm going to implement it so that my content is not dry. So, first of all, you need a strategy. Number two, not investing enough time in the planning. Steve just talked about it. You have a plan for how you're going to raise offering. You've got a plan for the building fund. You've got a plan for what you're going to do for your anniversary, but you don't have a plan for your content. You've not invested any time into this content. You realize that with no investment, you're equaling failure in the virtual world. Not only do you need a strategy, not only is it that you're not investing enough time in the planning, but finally, this is real simple. Write this down for you deep exegetes. Here it is. Your content is boring. You're just boring. You're saying stuff that doesn't match the present age. You're singing hymn number 406, a charge to keep I have. But when you get to the third stanza, you are not serving the present age. You've become a prisoner of the past generation. And if you don't stop and register for Virtually Unstoppable, you'll find yourself much like Xerox, out of business, bought out, and trying to catch up with the call of this current circumstance. Get your friends, get your mama, get your daddy, get your deacons, get your ushers, get your executive team, get your social media director, get everybody you know and tell them to go right now. Register by the 3s, by the 10s, by the 20s. Why? Because you cannot go into 2021 waiting for God to come to Easter to get you back into a space that will never return. We are going into a place that no man has gone before, and you need to be a Virtually Unstoppable. Thank you so much, Christian, for the opportunity and the time, and I'm excited to be able to help people change who they are.
Yes, sir. If you don't learn anything else at Virtually Unstoppable, you're going to learn how to not be boring. We want to make sure you don't bore people to death. Lord have mercy. Steve, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just can't wait for Curvance to lead us and guide us along the way.
I'm not doing this.
Hey,
this is supposed to be a serious
moment. Man, when you have one of Satan's chief shepherds in the building, you already know that there's going to be some antagonism. But what you won't be is you won't be boring. You're going to have a good time in this
process. For those of you that don't know, we're all friends. Everybody on this screen, we are friends in real life. So every now and then, you know, we take little jabs at each other. Steve is actually my #1 troll on the internet, which is a high honor. And he keeps me laughing. But no, what Curvance just shared is so important, especially talking about having a strategy. Many times when we start movements and ministries, people don't consider who exactly they're called to. We don't consider that. We just start something. But who are you called to, and how do you serve those people? What style of communication is going to connect with the people that you're called to? Ross?
That's important. And I think this is another plug for being registered for Virtually Unstoppable. Many of us forget that the gospel is free to all, but your message is specific to some. Say that again. The gospel is free to all, but your message is specific to some. And if you are a fan of Gardner Taylor, for those who are preachers, realize that Gardner Taylor, and I know we're going to have some people ready to kill me for this, his style of content would not translate to social media. Understand that. It does not mean that he's not effective, but Gardner Taylor was preaching to people who had no televisions. They were able to sit around the radio, and his job was to create content that painted a picture. But if you don't understand that the methods have changed, the mechanisms are different, and the vehicles are more robust, if you're still delivering your content the way you delivered it before coronavirus, you have died of the virus of orthodoxy. And this process will allow us, if you register, because this is the only free segment you're getting. If you register after this, you can literally go into your context and become virtually unstoppable.
Kervance, are you saying that we got to stop preaching 45 and 50-minute sermons sitting in the living room?
Today, I got a notification, Steve, on my phone that for the first time in 12 years, Donald Trump took over as most sought after and admired man in the world after Barack Obama had been that for 12 consecutive years. Say that again. For the first time in 12 years, Donald Trump is the most admired man after Barack Obama has been in the running for 12 straight years. What that helps us understand is that there are more stupid people out here than reality allows us to understand. They're not involved in how fluid you are, how colloquially connected you are. They don't care about how you can wax poetic. You've got to speak to that particular audience the way that their ears hear. And if you don't make the shift, you are finding yourself being Xerox. You have dry content.
Yes, sir. Part of the reason we've structured this gathering today the way that we have is because we understand in the virtual world, people's attention spans are much shorter. So we can't have one person talking for 45 minutes straight because you're going to tail off at about 7 to 8 minutes, generally speaking. And if you have a movement or a ministry where you present and create content and you're just talking for an hour, you're already missing the boat. You're already missing the boat. So we have to get to a point where we are intentional with our content and our programming for whatever it is we're trying to accomplish. And that means we have to know who we're called to. So go to christianasmith.com and go to the events tab and register right now, $135 for all 4 sessions. Again, next year, my price is going up. And by next year, I mean Friday. So I need you to register now because the price is going up on Friday, y'all. And you need to get this content, all 4 sessions. Register today. So I know what everybody's waiting on because nobody wants to put in all of this work and not be compensated for it. And I totally understand that. When I have talked to other leaders who have been interested in starting something online, or when I've talked to pastors who have been booming in the physical space and they are reluctant to get into this virtual piece, it's like, well, them people not coming, them folk not giving. Listen to me. My top givers have never been in the building, and nobody funded my ministry. Nobody funded my ministry. Thank God for the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, known as CBF. They have supported our ministry. They commissioned the faith community as a church start, and they have been very supportive. And we've been partnering with them for our 2.5 years of existence. But CBF didn't have money allocated to completely fund our ministry. So what they did give to us was more like a gesture of support. We couldn't operate our ministry based on what they gave us. So nobody funded my ministry, and everybody was sitting around waiting for my ministry to die because people have been saying, this dude is crazy. Nobody's going to follow him. And here we are, 2.5 years later, my ministry is thriving. That's not just because of my theology, it's because we put systems in place. We were intentional in how we created content. And then we figured out how to monetize that. Here's the challenge for many of us who are here right now. Here's the big challenge. And I'm going to talk specifically to ministry leaders right here, because in my clothing business, I know how much it costs for me to make the clothes. I know how much time I spend designing the clothes. I know how much time I spend styling my clients. So I set my price based on how much it cost me. Ministry is one of the only industries where you provide a service that comes at a cost, but has no set price. I'm gonna say that one more time. Ministry is one of the only industries where you provide a service that comes at a cost but has no set price. And that is the fear that many of us have in trying to be virtually unstoppable. How am I going to make any money doing this? And I'm not saying you're trying to take advantage of people. No, you're providing a service that people need. That's why they come to you. That's why they log on. That's why they want to be a part of your community. So, how do you sustain it financially? It comes at a cost, but has no set price. That's why we have Reverend Tish Williams here. And in her session, she's doing the fourth session on February 2nd. Remember, Virtually Unstoppable is 4 sessions that will occur weekly, Tuesday nights at 8 Eastern. The fourth session will be Reverend Tish Williams, and she's going to talk about monetization and sustainability. And I want to give her an opportunity, Reverend Tish, if you'll tell us a little bit about what you plan to cover in your session.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you for the opportunity, but I will never forgive you for putting me behind yourself, Stephen, or Cavance. So we have a score to settle. You can make me one of those suits that get, one of those mold breaking suits. That'll be an acceptable apology. I'm super excited to be here with you tonight. In our session, we're going to be discussing monetization and sustainability. And while they are mentioned separately, one is dependent on the other, much like an ecosystem. So when we talk about sustainability, it's really meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability for future generations to meet theirs. And there are 3 key areas of sustainable development that we're going to focus on that are integral to every church, business, movement, community, and organization so that they can exist in the long term. And they are economy, society, and environment. So if we were to take a poll, most people would say that among these 3 areas, economy and society would rank most important. But I push back on that. I believe it's environment. Because an economy cannot thrive without its society, and a society cannot be sustained in an unhealthy environment. So in order to sustain, or rather meet the needs of now without compromising the future, you have to be honest about the health of the organization and the environment, the conditions, the culture, the circumstances, and the entire ecosystem of your organization. So as you stated, Christian, we shouldn't even attempt to go back to normal. There is no normal. Whatever that script was, we have to rip it up. Leaders can no longer be afraid to ask the tough questions. Not only can they not be afraid, they can't afford it. You have to ask the tough questions and face the hard truths about the environment of your organization as we face the future, change, and in some cases, if we're being real, decline. A sustainable environment is self-sufficient. A sustainable environment is strategic, and a sustainable environment slays. Stephen and I are probably going to bookend this thing. He said it in the beginning, I'm saying it at the end. In order to sustain, some things have got to die. Henry Cloud says it this way: today may be the enemy of your tomorrow, in business and in life. The tomorrow that you desire and envision may never come to pass if you don't end some things right now that you're doing today. And here's where the critical nature of making an honest assessment of your environment comes in. It's not one based on tradition. It's not based on a crumbling culture. It's not even based on emotion, but an honest, true, hard fact assessment about where you are. Because if you are not careful, what you've been trying to kill in your organization may be the very thing that's keeping it alive. Let me prove it to y'all, because some of y'all know looking funny on the other side. For example, how many church leaders were opposed to .com because they said .com was .devil, not knowing that going viral is what gave most of us the victory in this season? I'm reminded of my time in Kenya. Every year I go to Kenya to do mission work. And the first time I went there was a swarm of bats outside of the guest house. They gather outside, a bunch of them. And it just got to be too much. One night a bat got in the house. It was crazy. And so the next year that we went, our host, being so gracious and wanting us to feel comfortable, removed the bats. They put the bats in the back of the house. They gave them their own space with fruit and the whole bit. But here's what happened. The removal of the bats made way for more mosquitoes. You see, what we didn't know is that the bats were eating the mosquitoes and thereby protecting us. The bats weren't a threat. The mosquitoes were the threat. The more mosquitoes, the higher risk of being bitten. The more we were bitten, the higher risk of contracting malaria. The more we were at risk from malaria, the higher the risk became of us becoming terminally, critically, or fatally ill. So I'm telling you, what you will learn in Virtually Unstoppable is that it's not the obvious, scary looking thing that is threatening your environment or your business, but rather the small, almost inconspicuous thing that you are paying no attention to. That's the threat. So you've got to make an honest assessment of your environment in order to be self-sufficient, strategic, and slay accordingly in order to sustain. So make sure you register right now.
Now you can see why we put her up after us. Everybody understands that now. I'm not settling any score, Tish. Do you know? I'm not settling nothing. You owe me after that. I want to hear that. Talking about get out of here. Listen. You can monetize and sustain your ministry or your movement in the virtual space. That is a part of being virtually unstoppable. You have to take that seriously, and Pastor Tish is going to help us with that in that session. Now there's one more session that we're going to have. I said there were four. One of my clinicians couldn't be here tonight. She's actually a part of my team here at the Faith Community, and her name is Callie Cawthon Frills. And I'm so excited about her session because it is the component that we many times overlook. And don't leave yet, because I want to bless somebody before we get out of here. So if you want to be a part of this, I want to bless somebody before we get out of here. So don't leave yet. This is what's so important as we consider building community online in a sustainable way. Everybody wants to talk about programming and content creation. Curvance and Tish are probably going to have, the most popular sessions at the onset, because those are the things that people are constantly thinking about. People don't think a lot about team development and systems implementation, which really, if you don't have a team and a system, your content means nothing. If you don't have a team and a system, then you can't fully monetize. But what Callie Cawthon Frills is going to help us with in her session on community care and grief support is how you actually bring a community together. Setting up a camera and doing a video, creating content does not build a community. It will build your celebrity because it draws people to you. But the purpose of what we're trying to do in building online community is not to connect people to the leader, but to connect people to each other. Because as our communities grow, everybody's not going to be able to get to the leader, but they should have somebody in the community to whom they can connect. And that operates differently in the virtual space. See, when we were just going to church physically, you would sit next to people, you would hug people, we go around, we have fellowship time. It doesn't work the same way in the virtual space. So what we're going to answer in Callie's session is, how do we connect people to each other? How do we care for people? How do I connect my member who lives in Oakland, California to my member who lives in Brooklyn, New York? How do I connect my member who lives in Chicago, Illinois to my member who lives in Pensacola, Florida? How do I connect these people in a meaningful way? And how do I care for them? How can I be there for them when they're hurting? Because how you support people in their time of grief will have a major impact on how loyal they are to your work and your vision. If you care for people when they're hurting, they'll never forget it. They'll never forget it. And you have to be able to do that in the virtual space as well. So we're going to have an entire session. I can't wait for you to hear what Callie has to share. And in each session, you're going to hear from me and a guest clinician. So it's going to be amazing. You need to go to christianasmith.com right now. Right now. You can register while this video is going. That's fine. Go ahead and register, because this is pivotal in your ministry. This is an investment in the post-pandemic success of your ministry. Do not wait for the vaccine to come out and expect everybody to come to church. The research shows it, and my conversations with people also show it as well. I've talked to a number of people who have said, I've gotten used to this. I don't see myself going back to church. And if I do go back to church, maybe it'll be once a month or just when I need it. So, another thing about monetization, and I'm going to give you this for free, and we're going to go into it in more detail. The traditional model has been for us to tie giving to gathering. Write that down, take that note. The traditional model has been for us to tie giving to gathering. In the virtual age, people don't gather as frequently as they once did. People aren't coming to church every single weekend. So if we're only tying giving to gathering, we're cutting off an opportunity to financially sustain our ministries. So we're going to talk in Tish's session about how do we get people to support the ministry even when they don't come? What does that look like? How does that work? And I'm not talking about manipulation. I'm not talking about coercion. I'm talking about being straightforward and honest with people and creating a vision that people can buy into. That is what we're going to do at Virtually Unstoppable. I want to bring my other clinicians back on the screen, and I do want to bless somebody. Do you all have any thoughts before we start handing out blessings?
Yeah, I first of all, Tish, as always, blows us away. I think it is important. Why, if you want to give a cornerstone for pastors, church leaders, it's not in eliminating anybody else, but if you want to hear why should I register right now, we're literally going to show you how to make the tithe, the offering, and the partnership make sense. Why is this important? Because content, project management, systems, all of those things are important. But I found out with some of my partners that as of coronavirus, the new highest giving day in churches who are what I call phygital. You want to know what phygital is? Register for the conference. If you want to know what the new highest giving day of the week is for those who have become phygital in the virtual space, it is no longer Sunday. Get this, it is now Friday. Again, the highest giving day for people who are phygital in the virtual space is no longer Sunday. It is now. Why? Because they are reaching people who got paid at the end of the week. And many of us don't realize how to reach those people, the psyche behind it, the content creation, the strategy, and the systems. You're frustrated about Sunday when there's a group of people ready to pay you on Friday. And because you are stuck in your system, you're missing Friday money because of Sunday satisfaction. And you've got to be able to change. So if you really want to get better, you should go right now. I mean, stop what you're doing. Go right now and register for 4 days that can literally change your ministry, your business, your dream, your vision, or your organization. Don't wait any longer. Go register and get this content today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is so important. And I can attest to that. With my ministry, we don't even meet on Sundays. So we can't tie our giving to Sunday. And most of the giving comes in on Friday. And again, we're not coercing anybody. The reality is when you properly meet people's needs, they want to give. You can ask anybody in my movement or my ministry. I don't coerce anybody to give. I just ask. Now, if you talk to Kervance and Steve, they might try to convince you that I manipulate them into spending money on clothes. That's
It's
a
your
lie.
content. It's your content, Doc. It's your content.
It's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. I don't coerce anybody. They ask me for these clothes. Steve, do you have anything you want to share before we hand out this blessing?
Man, I just got a text from a pastor who's tuned in, and he gave us one of the highest compliments that can be given. And he said that he appreciates what we're doing because we're not on here trying to sell our books and our products. We're not full of fluff. We're full of facts. And that's what you got to be tuned into this for, because we're giving you substance when so many other people out here are giving you surface. So tune into this, chime into this, connect with this, and I promise you'll see the dividend on the other side of this month-long series
Yes, sir.
of enlightenment
Yes, sir.
and empowerment.
I saw a question from Myron Randall. He said, "Will there be any resources to take away after the sessions?" Yes, sir. We will have some digital resources for you to take away, because again, we're trying to give you content, meat, like action steps that you can actually incorporate into your ministry right away. And remember, it's not about having a lot of money. There are ministries of all sizes represented here. I have a church start that's not even 3 years old yet. Uh, Stephen and Kervance are staff pastors at two of the biggest churches in the country. Tish pastors a First Baptist church. Okay.
Which means you already know.
Exactly. You know,
A 96-year-old First Baptist
96.
church.
So wherever you are on the spectrum of movement or ministry, Tish has an online movement for women. I have an online movement and podcast for cigar enthusiasts. So wherever you are on that spectrum, we're talking about systems that will help you function. I don't care about your theology. I don't care about the size of your church. I don't care about the demographics of your church. We're trying to give you systems that you can tailor to your ministry. But some of the greatest lessons that I've learned in business came from people who I didn't necessarily align with morally or theologically, but they knew business. They knew how to teach me how to sell. So we have to understand that wherever we are in that spectrum, there are some components that just work across the board. And that's what we want to help you with. Now, if you're okay, Tish, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to piggyback on that because that's the importance also of understanding your environment and the ecology of your environment. Because a lot of what's happening is people are being triggered to do things that better suit a church of Kervance or Stephen's size or an organization of their size. And you have to, so if I'm in a marine environment, that's not going to suit me in a rural environment. And the same holds true for business and churches and organizations and movements. You've got to know exactly who you're targeting and adjust accordingly. So everything that somebody does doesn't mean you're supposed to follow suit,
And
because that
Tish,
could cause you to fail.
Tish, you said something. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
1 second before you say that, because I want to let you say that, but I want to go ahead and get to this blessing, and I want you to say what you got to say. If you're here, and hold that thought, Ross, 'cause I'm coming back to you. If you're here right now, and notice my language, I said if you're here right now, we're going to talk about that at Virtually Unstoppable. The language you use is so important. If you're here with us right now and you're saying, man, I really want to be a part of this, I really need this content, but I don't have $135. If I had it, I would invest it, but I don't have $135. I want to give away 2 scholarships tonight. The first 2 people that type in the comments, I need help, because sometimes you just got to say, I need help. The first 2 people that type in the comments, I need help, you're going to get free scholarship to Virtually Unstoppable for all 4 sessions. Ross, go ahead.
Yeah, it is. I think it's important. Tish said something. We're going to be giving the reality of our reality in these sessions as well. Because much like Steve, I've literally had 5 pastors text me, and I'm wanting to tell you while I'm on, don't text me no more. Because you can get all of the answers at Virtually Unstoppable if you literally register. But the benefit of this process is that some people believe that because Steve is at Salem or I'm at New Birth, that our systems only work because of how large we are. We're going to break these things down because, as you said, Christian, the difference in this space is all of us were entrepreneurs and in the ministry space. It allows us to understand the marketplace and ministry. And for those that are entrepreneurs, that are business owners, who are pastors, who don't realize you run a business, these sessions are going to be so important and so endeavoring to you moving forward for the success of your church, organization, or entity.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. So we had some people to respond. The first two names I see, and somebody confirm for me, because sometimes it comes up differently on this backstage end. James Livingston, Reverend Coach Dr. J, uh, and Marshall Johnson were the first two people that I see on the screen to say that I need help. So if that's correct, let me make sure. I want to make sure I get that right. Right. James and Marshall were the first two. Also, uh, after I made that announcement, Reverend Tish said she would sponsor someone as well. So Yolanda, you came in third, but Reverend Tish is going to sponsor you as well. So James Livingston, Marshall Johnston, Yolanda Williams, congratulations. You got your registration covered for Virtually Unstoppable. Everybody else, listen, go register. If you don't have it, ask somebody in your network. This is an investment into the future of your movement or your ministry. This $135 will pay off so many dividends in your future. Again, just looking at my ministry individually, giving has grown exponentially during the pandemic. Membership has grown during the pandemic. I'm talking about on the faith community side, my church ministry, and on the Holy Smoke side. It's grown and it will continue to grow because we're maximizing the virtual space. We're virtually unstoppable. I don't want to be the only ministry that's virtually unstoppable. I don't want these other three people on the screen to be the only people who are virtually unstoppable. I want you to be virtually unstoppable too, which is why we're creating this. Go to christianasmith.com, click on the events tab, and register today. On Friday, early bird registration ends. The price goes up to the regular price of $175. So please, please, please go and register to our scholarship winners. We're going to get with you so that we can give you the code to. I'm reading something real quick, making sure I got all my back end notes. So we're gonna get in contact with you to get you set up with that registration. So thank you so much for being here. We promised that we would have this done in an hour or less, and we're within that time frame. Make sure you go register because you're going to hear more from each of these people on this screen, including myself and Callie Coffin Frills, who couldn't be here today. Make sure you register. This is for the good of your ministry and your movement. Can't wait to see you. And please share this with somebody. Share it with somebodies. Share it with people that need it. I don't care where you are. If you have a pastor, they need to see this. They need to see it. So thank you again for tuning in, for being here with us. And we will see you next time, hopefully at Virtually Unstoppable. I have a great evening.